check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and it seems like Nintendo is taking away our autonomy, and many of us don't even realize it. What do I mean? I mean that when you used to buy a Nintendo system, whether it was a home console or a handheld console, once you got the console, it was yours. Uh, you had the ability to take this console completely apart, modify it, change it, and really the only thing you lost back in the day was your warranty, pretty much. There were rules when you opened up your Game Boy or your SP or even your DS. There were some clauses in the manufacturer's warranty where if you did certain things to your system, it would void your warranty. Meaning, if the console broke, if it was rendered unusable due to your own actions, you then could not turn around and go to Nintendo and say, hey, fix my console because I tried to hack it. And I think back in the day, that used to matter. Warranties used to matter a lot because not as many people were as tech savvy. They weren't as aware. They didn't know necessarily how to fix or change or modify certain things on their systems. But over the past 25 years, there's been this massive sharing of information. And thanks to places like this one, YouTube, more and more people have actually learned how to modify their consoles, modify their handhelds, modify their systems in ways that allow them to enjoy certain games on certain handhelds. It's allowed them to engage in things like emulation. And it's been this great sharing of knowledge that has enabled a certain level of autonomy when it comes to the physical items that we're purchasing from game companies. And so these days, folks are less and less worried about voiding their warranty because even if they do something that, that where they might break their console, most people know that they can just go on YouTube, watch a YouTube video, and figure out how to fix it themselves. Even I myself have benefited from YouTube tutorials in the case where I bought a copy of Resident Evil Gaiden, rather. I bought a copy of Resident Evil Gaiden that wasn't properly loading, and I was able to find a video that taught me how to reflow the chip on the motherboard, the main chip on the motherboard. And I had never done soldering in my life, but I watched a 4 minute video, bought a soldering iron, got a screwdriver, cracked the game open, and was able to fix the game on my own. I didn't need to go to Nintendo. I didn't need any specialty service. I just needed some initiative, and I was able to fix it. And that's a beautiful thing when you think about being able to fix your own items and not necessarily depending on Nintendo for that. But again, you obviously have a community that has taken that much farther, and they've used this knowledge to, again, modify their consoles to their benefit. And this is something that Nintendo isn't really a fan of. I don't think they've ever really been a fan of that, and understandably so, because what's happening in these emulation communities is they're basically bypassing Nintendo's system of payment. Basically, they don't want to have to pay Nintendo for the hundreds or thousands of games that they may download to a modified console. They just want to play the game. And when they do this, obviously Nintendo's losing out on money. But this creates a big controversy because if I purchase a console, shouldn't it be mine? Shouldn't I have the ability, now that I actually own this console, shouldn't I have the ability to do what I want to it without the company turning around and taking it back from me? Like, imagine if when you bought an original Game Boy, if you decided to change out the buttons, you got a letter in the mail from Nintendo saying, hey, we've detected that you've changed the buttons from red to blue, and for that reason, we're going to take your Game Boy back. Or we're going to render your Game Boy useless. Well, this is what's happening. with the Switch 2, to where if you decide to modify the Switch 2 in certain ways, Nintendo will essentially render your console useless, which I find baffling, especially considering how much people are actually paying to own this console. Now, when you think about ownership, there's this idea that you don't own anything. And I guess in an abstract way, that could be true, right? Like, in from a philosophical point of view, yes, that could be true. But there is a level of there. In my opinion, there are levels of ownership. I always wanted to be a homeowner because I never wanted to have to deal with a landlord. I never wanted to have someone tell me that I couldn't paint my walls a certain color. I never wanted to have someone tell me that I couldn't stay outside in a yard past 10 p.m. I wanted to be able to build a fence if I wanted to. I wanted to be able to add a room or extend a room or completely remodel the second floor or completely demolish the basement and redo it. There are certain things you can do when you have a level of ownership that you can't when you have no ownership, zero ownership. And so people confuse, I think people sometimes conflate the two. People who don't own but rent try to convince people who do own that they don't own. Well, there is a level of ownership. And to me, how ownership is delineated between owning something and renting something is your right or your ability to encumber, to modify, to change, to do what you want to do with said piece of property, whether it's a home or a video game. So when you purchase a home and you sign a purchase agreement to own a home, there are a series or a number of rights that you get as a homeowner that you don't get as a renter. And these rights, which are basically stated on a document, these rights give you the ability to make changes, to do things to your property that someone who was renting couldn't do. Now, obviously, when you own a home, you don't have to deal with the tenant, but you still have to deal with the city because you have to pay taxes. You still have to insure your home, right? There's things that you still have to do. And obviously, if you don't pay your taxes, if you don't pay your insurance, and obviously, if you don't pay your mortgage, unless your home is paid off, the bank can come and take your home. And going back to video games, when you purchase a console, you purchase it with the understanding that you have the right to do whatever you want to with the console because it is now yours. Now, again, these consoles do come with warranties that can be voided if you do certain things to the console. And most consumers understand that, which is why a lot of times consumers they won't make any changes. But you do have some consumers who are so knowledgeable that they don't care. They throw the warranty out the window. You can see even the same thing with cars. This is a big part of the reason why a lot of people don't modify their cars. They don't change pieces in the engine. They don't, upgrade their transmission. They don't do certain things internally because they know if they swap out pieces or parts with aftermarket pieces, it could void the manufacturer warranty on the car. And now they're stuck with it. If the car breaks down, if the car doesn't play nice with any of those aftermarket pieces, you can't go back to the dealer and say, hey, fix my car. But if you're a gearhead, if you're a dude who knows his way around cars or a woman who knows her way around cars, that won't matter to you because you'll know what to do to get the car running exactly how you want it. And this is where we're at now. When a lot of people talk about emulation, to me, what you're seeing with the Switch 2 is the start of Nintendo's ability to completely eliminate any chances of you being able to use their hardware for emulation. Gone are the days where you can download a piece, download software, do some type of, and I'm sure there's going to be someone perhaps, who will be so tech savvy that maybe they'll find a workaround and figure out how to hack the Switch too. You've got some very creative and very knowledgeable individuals out there. But for, I would say, 95% of users of the Switch, you won't be able to make any changes or any modifications to your console because Nintendo has set it up to where if you do, they will render your console completely useless. And I think this is very interesting when you think about the idea of ownership, because today I can crack my Game Boy open, I can swap out the screen, make it a backlit screen. I can crack open the motherboard and maybe put something in here that allows me to not even have to swap out cartridges. I could probably just create or do a homebrew cartridge that I pop in and it stays in here permanently. It attaches to the motherboard, and every single Nintendo game ever made is available just by maybe clicking a button on the side. I can swap through and filter through all the games in the Game Boy library. I can do something like that to this, and guess what? No one will know because this device isn't connected to a network. There are no chips in here that will let Nintendo know if I'm messing with it. There's no, right? This is completely untethered from the network, from the overall grid. And that's what I love about retro devices, because they are untethered. They're not attached. You own this device, and the only thing Nintendo can actually do to stop you from doing what you want with this device is literally going to your house and trying to take it out of your hands, which they're never going to do, obviously. And the same could be said with most of these devices. Obviously, the Switch Lite is the most modern device, and I haven't heard about Nintendo bricking the original Switch. I'd have to do more research on that. But I would assume that pretty much with all these devices here, I can crack these open and do whatever I want without having to worry about Nintendo completely just lobotomizing my system. um, and that's kind of scary, right? That's kind of scary because it means gamers are essentially losing their autonomy over the things that they buy. It started with the software where when you bought a game, you don't get the complete game and you need a download code to complete the game. It's starting there. But now they're doing the same thing with the hardware to where they can render your hardware useless. And I think the implications of that are very scary as a consumer because it makes me not want to put my money behind something that I don't at least have ownership rights to. Even if you want to say that I don't own it, I still should have a level of ownership rights that grants me the autonomy to do whatever I want with the hardware without having to worry about ramifications from the manufacturer. And if that's not what we're talking about, then what are we talking about? Are we talking about glorified renting? Are we talking about glorified borrowing? Like what are we dealing with? If we don't own our devices and have the full autonomy to do what we want with them, what does that mean? And maybe I've got this whole thing mixed up or confused, or maybe I don't fully understand the bricking process of the Switch too. Um, but you guys let me know down in the comments, because again, if you buy something, if you sign documents that says you own something, that should come with a set of rights that gives you the autonomy to do whatever you want with that item, with that device, with that car, with that house. And as long as you are not doing anything illegal, there really shouldn't be a problem. So you guys let me know down in the comments how you feel about this, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.